Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the State of Cybersecurity in Amsterdam 2026. Today we're going to talk about navigating digital autonomy, threats and governments in a rapidly changing digital world. Well, the past few weeks, the digital world has been changing quite rapidly, isn't it? Well, my name is Bernard Nieuwensteeg. I'm your host and moderator for today. And on my way to this conference, I was thinking about my first encounter with this digital world. I must have been 7 or 8 years old, and I was in elementary school, and all of a sudden, a computer was wheeled into the classroom. Do you remember that period? And the computers and TVs, they still had wheels because you just had one of them in the classroom. Well, I had seen computers before. But this computer was very special because my teacher said with a very important voice, this computer has the internet. And I still remember that I was looking at that screen, and I remember the colors of the screen. It was red, it was yellow, there was some sort of a cartoon. And that's when my relationship with the connected digital world started. And oh man, I kept receiving a lot of gifts from this world, a lot of endless possibilities, a lot of continuous improvement. For instance, who of you had, in the end of the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s, Hotmail? Who of you had Hotmail at the time? Still had BB still has Hotmail. I remember I've already found that quite beautiful as somebody that age, but do you remember that every 2 weeks you had to delete your whole inbox? Do you remember that? Well, and then I will never forget it. In 2005, Gmail came and you had 1 gigabyte of storage. You never had to delete anything anymore. Wow. I really fell in love with this digital world. I was probably at that time, I was not in the cloud, but was certainly on a cloud, a pink cloud. Well, that's the part where you should laugh, but anyway. But afterwards, that digital world started to be a bit more of a complicated relationship. I started doing a PhD in cybersecurity. That's where I met BB van den Berg. We will discuss it. And I saw how cyber criminals were relentlessly attacking companies. For instance, when I finished my PhD in 2017, that was the moment when the Rotterdam harbor was attacked by a ransomware attack, and a quarter of those harbor, maybe you remember that, was unavailable to operate for about 5 days. But well, every relationship has its hiccups, right? Love is a verb. That's how we say it in the Netherlands. Liefde is a werkwoord. We just needed to work on a more open and secure relationship, and we did. We worked on cybersecurity in these kinds of conferences. We worked on an open digital world. But the past few weeks, I think we all commonly realized that we're not in a complicated relationship anymore. We're simply into a bad marriage with this digital world. After Trump threatened to invade Greenland, we all became aware, industry, government, and academia, that we are extremely dependent on American hyperscalers. And we don't have to accept that bad marriage. We have the capacity to build something better, to make a better relationship with this digital world. We have science for understanding, we have the government for autonomy, and the industry for innovation. And government, industry, and academia are together here. First, BB van den Berg will share the latest academic insights on cybersecurity and cybercrime. And afterwards, we're going to discuss how this region, the Metropolitan Region of Amsterdam, will be cyber secure and digital autonomous in 2035. We're going to do that with the cyber mayor of the Metropolitan Region and the deputy mayor of Amsterdam. And after the break, we're going to talk about innovation to build a better alternative. We're going to talk about building innovation and we're going to talk about keeping that innovation in Europe. But before we go to the program, I want to invite to the podium Heiko Spijkerboer, Martijn Dekker, and Herbert Bos to open this conference. Thank you very much. Martijn, to start with you. You have 3 roles here, Martijn. You are the CISO of ABN Amro. You are a professor at the University of Amsterdam. And you are the founder of the platform for cybersecurity innovation, PCSI. Why do you want to host this session? I'll keep the hand.
Can I hold it? No?
Yeah, no, you can't hold it.
Why am I so busy?
Why are you so busy?
You mentioned I'm the founder of the PCSI. I'm co-founder.
Co-founder.
But I do feel a lot of ownership.
Yeah.
And I've been with the program in all its forms and shapes for 12 years already. So that shows this is important. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm also proud that we're hosting this at ABN Amro in this location. Hopefully you had all a good trip to Amsterdam to get here. I've seen some emails, personal emails to me, because the invitation came from my inbox.
You all received the email, right?
Parking spots.
Yes.
And people apologizing they are ill. But I'm happy to see that the room is so full. So why am I here? Well, why do I do these 3 roles, for example? These are, for me, very close aligned. You mentioned it in your opening as well, the academic world, the private sector and the public sector. We have strong capabilities, all 3 of us. And I believe a cybersecurity topic, very complex thing, and I mean, look at the agenda for today. I really hope we'll find solutions by the end of the day for digital autonomy. It's an easy question, but we are faced with big problems and big questions, and we need to combine all 3 elements that we are also here on stage and in the room to basically move forward. Okay. And I'm really dedicated as a person to do it, and that translates into 3 roles and me hosting this session.
Thank you very much, Martijn. Herbert, I go to you. You're the chair of VNO-NCW MRA, Metropolitan... Sorry. Jesus, I practice this. I know you all so well, but maybe that's too well, because I always say to my sons, also, I say the different names. Heiko.
No problem, no problem.
You're the chair of VNO-NCW Metropolitan Region Amsterdam. When is this day a success for you?
A success? Yeah. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you, by the way, because you took the initiative to organize this, and I think that's great. So hopefully we'll get a big hand somewhere during this afternoon. But thank you, Bernard. A big success. Well, let's put it this way. We are here today because of the decisions we took in the past. We're in this state because of the decisions we took in the past. And the future will be made by the decisions we're going to make in the future. Starting today, tomorrow. And I hope that this session, and then it will be a success, I think, will give you ideas, inspiration, that you can use tomorrow to make better decisions. So I hope this event is a call to action for you to do something tomorrow at your office or wherever you are tomorrow.
Thank you, Heiko. Herbert, I turn to you because you are a professor of cybersecurity in Amsterdam at the VU University. You're also the founder or co-founder of AMSEC, the association of the Amsterdam universities focusing on cybersecurity. What's your relationship currently with the digital world?
With the digital world? So you talked about the relentless cyber criminals that break into systems. I was one of those, right? So many of you know this, I guess, or some of you know this, maybe not everybody here, but in the early, when I was 15 years old, we cracked computer games. That's how I learned to program. That's how I became interested in the digital world.
Did you also always win these computer games where you cracked them?
No, I was a really bad computer game player. I was a pretty good cracker.
Okay.
Yeah. This simply because we could not afford them. But then, as time went on, we saw that, more and more of our daily lives, and by now everything in our daily lives is connected and dependent on this digital world. And I was interested in, to what extent we are right to trust these computer systems, and to what extent they can actually be compromised. So this is the relationship that we currently have in our research group, where we look at, how, to what extent computer systems, however secure we may think they are fundamentally broken, or how they could be made more secure. I do this in our research group, but I also look at this in other organizations, right? So, for instance, in the Electoral Council, we worry about how secure our elections can be given the threats of nation states. Similarly, in the CyberSecurity Council, we do think about these things also. So the digital world connectivity is, I think, more in where can we still place our trust, and where should we not place trust in these digital systems?
Thank you, Herbert. Well, thank you all for contributing to this conference. A big round of applause for these three gentlemen, Heiko, Herbert and Martijn. Thank you. And I'll briefly move on to the program for today, which will be on the next slide, even the next slide. We will start, as said, with a keynote of Bibi van den Berg, who I will announce in a second. After that, we will have an interview with Alexander Scholtes and Pieter Heiliegers. And after the break, we have an invitation to the keynote webinar by Daniel Gebler, because unfortunately, he emailed me this morning. He is sick, but we arranged a webinar where he will do his keynote interactive with you in a few weeks. Then we're going to talk with Melanie Riebach about innovation and keeping this innovation in Europe. I think a very important topic right now. Some house rules. Pictures will be made. Do you not to be recognized on the picture? Let us know. Maybe everybody from the organization can stand up. Then you know who you can attend to if you don't want to be on the picture, or for any other question.
What will be done with the picture?
If you don't want to picture.
What will be done?
What will be done with the pictures? Reiner, what will be done with the pictures? What are you going to do with the pictures? Please tell me.
Such a nice event, we would like to publish a little bit, for example, on LinkedIn channels. We have a PCSI website where we might publish a few pictures. It's just to show that we are doing these kind of events and that people are enjoying themselves on these events. And no,
we don't use the TikTok.
No. Strictly the old website and the LinkedIn. That's the only channels we use.
Is that okay for you, Bart? Yes? Okay. Yes, and I was actually curious, maybe you're sitting next to somebody you know, but maybe you're sitting next to somebody you don't know. We talked about the relationship we had with the digital world, and I am curious, maybe you can talk for like 2 minutes with your colleague or somebody you don't know, which is maybe even better. If you ever fell in love with the digital world, when was it pure magic for you? Or did you never fall in love? Please discuss this. En dan Bibi, jij mag even naar voren. Kan jij lekker...
Moet ik iets met jou?
Kan jij lekker inpluggen? Volgens mij gaat dit goed. Nou, daar hadden we geen 2 minuten voor nodig. Nee. Ja, jij hebt ook gewoon je dingen staan. Dan vraag ik zo meteen of ze nog even wat willen delen ervan. Had jij zo'n periode dat je echt dacht, wauw, dit is gewoon fantastisch.
Ik eindig mijn praatje met dit.
Dat we daar weer naar terug moeten?
Nee, met waarom ik in love ben met het internet.
Nog steeds?
Wel topical, ja.
Nou, grappig dat we dan allebei een beetje dezelfde angle hebben.
Ja.
Ja. and gentlemen, please. Please finish your conversations about love. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Who wants to share something of this private moments, this intimate moments with the digital world? He does just discussed. You want to share? Yeah? And you're sitting next to the one with the microphone, so it's perfect. What's your...
It's already on. It's already.
Hi,
What's your name?
I'm Pieter.
Pieter. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks very much. And my love with the computer started when I've seen that big box of cables of my dad, which was full of the cables that you never throw out because you think you're going to need it in some time in the future. But I only realized this later when I joined the Systems and Network Engineering Master, and I've seen the cables coming out of the servers, and I felt the same exact feeling. And that's when I...
And how old were you at that time?
Well, I was tiny, and as I was fiddling with the cables at the Systems and Network Engineering Master, I realized I feel like that child back in the day who was playing with that box of cables, and that's my story about my love.
And in your home, do you also have this box of cables
of
yourself? Of course, of course.
Of course, and my...
Thank you very much for sharing your story. Somebody else? Yes, over there, Reinder.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Heiko.
Another Heiko.
Another Heiko.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Now it gets extra complicated for me. Eh? You know that.
Yeah. And I'm worried about what's happening in the world, and also in our society about the digital world. And social media is the biggest worry I have. How it affects our children, and how it affects the future for our children. I think what we can use in the business, factories or offices, and then digital, great. But social media in the community, I think it's a worry.
You never fell in love with social media, I guess.
No. I did.
Oh, you did?
I was addicted.
When did you? When was that then?
Yeah, I was addicted from the start.
Okay.
2 years ago.
Are we talking about hives, or are we talking about Facebook?
Yeah, hives also.
Okay.
Yeah. You guessed my age very well.
MySpace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but the digital world, yeah, it's a great world. But let's look at the negative part of it.
Okay. Very nice that you could comment. One last person. You had so many nice stories. I see somebody in the back, or it's just
somebody waving.
Place your hands on your hair.
Otherwise, I'll just point at somebody. Yeah.
Yes, I'm also wondering if somebody.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah?
All right. Thank you. It's nice to be handed the microphone without consent. There you go. My name is Feitse Roffel, and I just related. My first experience was at the university when you had P-mail and Netscape. But my fondest memory was, and I explained it to the young researcher next to me, and he looked at me totally puzzled. It's when you show someone like a cassette tape and a pencil, and you ask, "What is this for?" The sound the modem makes when you dial in. So I can't do it, but I'm sure some people recognize that sound.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure many people have no idea what I'm talking about.
Who does recognize that sound? Oh, wow. Oh. Okay. Probably different when you're in a room with students, right? Okay, I have a very special guest next to me, Bibi van den Berg. We met when I was doing a PhD, when I was experiencing this complicated relationship. And you are a professor now in cybersecurity governance at the University of Leiden. You came all the way from Leiden
to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Which is a very long...
Actually from Rotterdam, so it's even more dangerous.
You came all the way from Rotterdam, underneath the Green Heart, and now you're here, and you're also the co-founder of Access, the association for scientists performing science in cybersecurity, right?
Indeed, yes.
And many other things, but if we're going to discuss that, then we're 20 minutes later.
Into the talk, yes.
You told me that your talk is also going to be about your relationship with the digital world.
Yeah, it is. Shall I just get started, or what do you?
Yeah, let's get. I wanted to get the clue, but maybe you want the clue at the end of the presentation. I don't know. Let's get started, Bibi. Give her a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, and thank you for being here all. Very happy to be able to present on this stage. When we talk about cyberspace, and we've already done this in the introduction, a lot of people tend to express worry and concern and say there's a lot of stuff going wrong, there's all these threats, all these risks, all these bad things on the horizon. We are trying to look into the future and gaze and guess what's going to happen, and the things that we come up with usually are not happy thoughts. And to me, as a philosopher, I'm interested in where that comes from, in our understanding of the future and in the way we try to deal with uncertainty and try to understand things that haven't happened yet, try to project the current into some hazy, misty distance. And so one of the things that has been fascinating to me is that in our field, we have a long, long list of people who have tried to warn us for impending doom. So far, however, very little, really, really, really bad stuff has happened. And I mean crippling infrastructure stuff that takes out the internet multiple days, weeks, months in vast swaths of the world. So what's going on there? And that's actually what I want to talk to you about today. So since the early 1990s, we've heard stories, mostly from policymakers, from generals who climb onto a stage and then, in a very low voice, claim that the world is about to end and that it's all due to the rise of the internet. They use phrases like cyber Chernobyl or cyber Pearl Harbor to express some sort of urgency. Something's going on and it's going to be really, really bad. Now you see, even recently, so a June 2021 edition of Newsweek puts this on the cover, right? So we keep predicting impending doom. It's imminent, it's grave, and it's going to be devastating. However, so far, we have not witnessed attacks with a scale or an impact that actually warrant these kinds of references. And interestingly, in recent years, I talked to, from my role as a cybersecurity governance researcher, I talked to governments a lot. And in recent years, one of our most important finding, and that's a warning to all of you, is that the scare story is wearing thin. So policymakers now tend to start saying, yeah, we've heard it all before, there's impending doom, the world is going to go bust, you want us to send more money, but where, when, if it's not happening, where's the evidence of things going bust, right? If we don't see it, then maybe you guys have been predicting something that actually isn't going to happen in the first place. So this is, I think, something that we need to take seriously, because it says something about the message that we need to spread in order for us to be able to keep on doing what we do. Now, interestingly, if you then go into the evidence that people provide for claiming these cyber Pearl Harbors, there's a bunch of fun stuff happening. About 41% of the people who ever make claims like this do so on the basis of prior incidents and vulnerabilities. Scientifically, we think, okay, that makes some sense, right? You say topic X or phenomenon X has occurred in the past, and then you project that into a future and you say, could happen again, maybe bigger next time, right? Makes sense. However, another 15% uses completely fictional scenarios. alien invasions, could be anything, right? Whatever you come up with, but just a story about something big is going to happen, and it's entirely fictional, oftentimes not even realistic in terms of whether that could even happen in the first place. Other parties refer to non-cyber events, against things that happen in the physical realm, and then we sort of transpose that and say, okay, so that could migrate into the online world. There might be connections, similarities, stuff like that. Another 24%, so almost a quarter of the people who have ever made claims about this impending doom provides no evidence whatsoever. None. It's just, it's impending, it's coming. So, and then the rest of it is a combination of the previous references. What I'm trying to say is this is apparently something that people do, and in some cases they provide some evidence and they have a point, and in other cases it's just wild guessing. And as a researcher, I then become interested in the question, what's going on? Why do people do this? Are they trying to do scaremongering? Are they going to, are they expressing urgency? Alternatively, the fact that it's not happening, is that an expression of the fact that, in fact, the world is more secure than we think? Do organizations have their stuff in order? We have no clue, right? Because it's all anticipatory stuff, it's predictions about a future. And so, what's going on here? One of the explanations that we have been looking at in my research group in the past years is this question of, are we just maybe really bad at predicting the future? And do we tell doom stories because doom stories are tangible and they are vivid and they give you, they tickle your imagination, maybe not in a good way, but they do, they sort of resonate. Is that why we tell these kinds of stories? And so we've started looking into people's abilities to predict the future, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. So one of the key ways in which organizations in the Netherlands, in Europe, across the globe, try to deal with cybersecurity challenges is to do what we call risk management, right? So we investigate or we make lists of what the risks are, the threats are that an organization faces, and on the basis of that, we make predictions. And what we usually do is we say, well, we use past references to past events, to say something about the future. That doesn't just apply to cyber-related stuff. This is how we generally make predictions in all aspects of life. So predicting the future oftentimes builds on the past. And you can predict the future reasonably well when a number of conditions are met. So you can predict the future well on the basis of the past when the future resembles the past. That's pretty obvious, right? When there's similarity to past events and things that may happen again or are very likely to happen again in the future, then you can predict very adequately. So with a familiar phenomenon, prediction is easy. It also helps if there are very few variables. So if something is simple, right, we can predict simple stuff well and very, very, with great precision. We can't predict complex stuff well. This seems very obvious as well. And a third factor is the role of human intentionality. So if, let's say, if you are you're planning a terrorist attack, or a criminal act, then one of the ways you go about doing this is to think through something that is unexpected, something that is surprising, right? The point of terrorism is not to kill, the point of terrorism is to generate terror, and you do so by generating surprise, by doing something in a place at a time where nobody has expected that. So when acts involve human intentionality, so when people are out to do something bad deliberately, then they go out of their way to be unpredictable, right? So if we use the past to predict future terrorist attacks, that's a no-go, because terrorists will try their very best to be unpredictable, right? So as soon as human intentionality is involved in future events, then predicting them becomes much more difficult. So, just to be clear on what we're doing, prediction works super well in what we call simple puzzles, right? You roll a dice, you toss a coin, you know in advance, in the case of a coin, there are two different possible outcomes. In the case of dice, 6 possible outcomes. You know in advance what the likelihood of each outcome will be. You can calculate that very precisely. Then you can roll the dice. Each time the outcome is uncertain, in the sense that you don't know in advance whether you will roll 6, 2, 3, but you know in advance what the likelihood of each of these outcomes is. So prediction in this case is precise and it works very well. And few variables, simple stuff, right? We can do this really, really well. Then prediction gets a little bit harder in cases like this. You try to predict how long your train trip will take. You try to predict whether NS is going to provide a train for you on time. Well, gets a bit more tricky there because there are more variables, more complexity, there's data, there's plenty of data, but on the basis of the data from the past, you cannot make fully precise predictions here. They're moderately precise predictions. The same goes for, thinking of age distributions and average ages when people die, right? We know approximately what the average age is when the average person will die, but we can't predict this precisely, especially not in individual cases, but even across the population, because there are too many variables at stake. We have lots of data, but this is just complicated. It's more, there's more stuff going on, and hence the predictions are not so precise. Now, I thought, well, bring this one up because we're inside a bank. So in finance, for the last 100 and so many years, there has been a solid understanding that prediction is actually, well, too difficult, right? So in the financial world, people tend not to speak of predictions, they talk of estimations. And some of them even say, well, that's a bit of a stretch. We do guesswork, maybe educated guesswork, but there are huge margins of error. There are lots of data, but there are so many variables. There are trends from the past, but you can always have a break, so the patterns are unclear. The past doesn't always resemble the future. Disturbances may occur. There is high complexity, there's lots of uncertainty. So many things might be going on that it's really difficult to predict what markets will do. And we all know about this, right? We all know about moments where markets suddenly do something very surprising, and we're in an economic crisis of some kind. Now, human intervention, of course, also plays a role in markets. Political decisions matter, strategic decisions matter, decisions of a bank matter, decisions of the collectives of banks matter, and so on and so forth. So here, we are no longer talking about flipping coins, rolling dice, or even about trying to understand your average train time travel. We're really in the fuzzy world now. Of course, that raises the question, how does all of that work for the digital world? We'll get to that, but I want to bring up one more point, and that's the issue of randomness. As human beings, we have really, really grave difficulty dealing with randomness. Our brains simply are not wired to understand things that happen randomly. So we tend to overestimate the frequency with which random outcomes should alternate, and we come up with weird claims like lightning doesn't strike twice. It does actually, and why would it not, right? No reason whatsoever why it shouldn't. So we have a really difficult time grappling with predicting random events, and that then ties into the complexity of, for instance, predicting financial futures. We're just not good at doing any of this. So what do we do in terms of prediction in the digital domain? Trust me, it will be a happy ending. But bear with me. This is what the internet looks like today, right? It's just a mess. It's super complicated. Nobody has a full overview. Nobody has an understanding. It's not just technical layers. It's human behavior. It's political systems. It's economic incentives. It's all globally interconnected. It's just far too complicated for us to understand or to get a sense of how we can do anything or predict anything in any solid sense in relation to cyberspace. So, How do we deal with uncertainty in this digital domain? Well, we have a bunch of different strategies that we have developed collectively, and some of them work pretty well and others not so well. But it's a work in progress, and we've learned a lot in the last 20 years. I think if you plot things on a timeline, there's ballpark 5 strategies that we engage in, and most of them at multiple strategies at the same time. First and foremost, we do all sorts of preventative stuff, right? We try to understand which vulnerabilities are there, which risks, which threats, how can we try to prevent these from leading to all sorts of incidents, to crises, to bad stuff. Second issue is we try to detect stuff that's going on, right? Find actual ongoing attacks, find anomalies in networks and so on and so forth, and try to, again, stop things from going from bad to worse. Third is to say, and that's a more recent addition to the story, if this world is so complicated, then maybe at times incidents are going to happen. And because they are, and we need to take that as a given, we have to prepare ourselves for when they do. So invest in what we call preparedness. Try to find resilience, try to increase, for instance, to have extra buffers or extra material in place so that when bad things happen, when there is an outage, we can get back online more quickly and so on and so forth. Working on redundancy is one of the things that falls in this field. Then, of course, when incidents strike, we now have a field that does incident response. So we try to fix problems, but we also try to learn from them, try to understand what has happened, and try to mediate and remediate this. And then finally, across all of this, we need to do governance, right? Somebody has to decide where the money is going to be spent. Somebody has to decide which laws and rules are applying. Somebody has to make policies. Somebody has to make decisions on how to organize cybersecurity at an organizational level, at the level of a state, at the level of a region in the EU, at the level of the international community as well. So, this is what we do. Now, if you look at prediction, then most of the prediction stuff happens in the prevent activity, right? This is where risk management falls. This is where organizations sit down, identify threats and risks, and then try to sort of navigate how they want to deal with these future incidents. Again, this is where all this future-looking stuff is occurring. Now, there's 3 issues with predicting incidents and threats and the consequences thereof in relation to the digital realm. First and foremost, the future in the digital realm does not resemble the past at all. I mean, we've just talked about hives, we've just talked about, I don't know, the weird telephone sounds that you had in the early days of the internet whenever you tried to connect. This ecosystem has changed completely, and it is changing completely every couple of years, right? We add new stuff, we add new things that we can do with this digital realm, and it doesn't resemble what we used to do in the past at all. It's constantly changing, so it's very dynamic. That's not helpful if you're trying to think about predicting the future, because in this case, therefore, the past is of no use to the future, because by the time we figure out what's going on today and we understand what we need to do with it, things have already changed, and so it doesn't help us to know the things we know today to predict what's going to happen in the future. The second issue is the complexity factor. There are so many variables out there, it's so interconnected and so completely, well, chaotic that we can't use data to make any kind of solid predictions about the future. We don't have a lot of data, again, because of the changing nature of cyberspace itself, also because of proprietariness, so data is often stored with companies, is often sometimes with cybersecurity companies, sometimes with governments. It's not put together so that we get a bigger picture of what is going on, so we also lack high-quality data to do these predictions. Also, randomness plays a huge factor in cyberspace, and again, we're bad at dealing with randomness, so this actually exacerbates the problem. And then third, to make matters worse, in cyberspace, threats are often generated by human actors, and as a consequence, we were talking about malicious actors who go out of their way to be unpredictable. So that weaves into our predictions about the future as well. And this explains why we talk about cyber doom, and it's impending, and it's big, and it's going to be crippling, but not just yet. So if prediction of incidents is so hard, then what should we do? And here's the happy part of the story. The happy part of the story is that we actually do have a lot of data, but maybe we're looking in the wrong direction. The happy part of the story is that the cyber Pearl Harbors have not manifested. The happy part of the story, and the reason why I love cyberspace, is that despite the fact that we know that it's messy, despite the fact that we know that it's fragile, despite the fact that we know that it's complicated, for some unfathomable reason, cyber doom has not happened yet. And the interesting thing about it is that we don't know why. Because we're all looking at the impending doom, we're all worrying about this future, but in the meantime, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, stuff is actually going pretty well, you know. We're all sending emails, we're all in social media, the lights keep working, the trains keep running, the planes keep flying, the banks keep doing whatever it is that banks do. It's going pretty well. And that's magical. So what I love about cyberspace is this weird duality, that on the one hand it's super fragile and it's super crazy and it's all interconnected, and on the other hand it's super robust, it's sturdy, and for some strange reason we manage to keep it going, even though it's sort of, well, spaghetti, right? And that makes me happy. So what we decided to do is to apply for funding with the Dutch Scientific Council, no, Dutch Organization for Scientific Research, that's what they're called in English, MAO, to understand why the internet isn't breaking much more often than it actually does. And so we got a grant, and we're now going to work on a project that is called What Works Well? Because we want to understand how it's possible that it's not breaking all the time, if it's actually so fragile. For those of you interested, come find us on the internet. We still have vacancies. So if anybody's interested in doing a postdoc or wants to apply as PhD students, please come find me. Yeah, I guess that's it. I'm happy with the internet because I think it's robust, even though it's crappy. I thank you.
My microphone is not that robust.
Yeah, you've lost your wire.
I've lost it, but I'm asking maybe Heider can ask you. Probably the technique will fix this because this doesn't seem right.
You actually break it?
Yeah, it disappeared in the chair, apparently.
Always
talking about love and robustness. Maybe. Thank you very much for your story. It was very nice. Can I do a second PhD?
Sure.
Applying.
Yeah.
You can do the multiple.
You do a postdoc too.
Do the postdoc. I was thinking. You're talking about these doomsday forecasts, but the past few weeks we have heard a lot of doomsday forecasts, isn't it?
Yeah.
I already said that the introduction. Barbara Katman, member of parliament of GroenLinks PvdA, said Trump has us by the balls.
Yeah.
How do you look at these doomsday forecasts? And then I go to you, the audience. But this was
So the iterations are always different. It's always a different argumentation and a different reason why somebody claims that there will be impending doom. I'm worried about what's happening today, and I have no data with which I can solidify my concern. My mother always used to say, a person suffers most from the things that they don't.
Okay, guys, I'm not sure whether I'm the right host and moderator for today. I'm breaking everything next to you.
Just stand still.
Just stand here. Okay, continue, Bibi.
I've completely lost my train of thought now.
Okay, doomsday.
My mom.
Your mom, doomsday.
People fear the things. So now, what is it again? Een mens lijdt het meest van het leed dat hij vreest.
Exactly.
And that is in English, a person suffers most from the things they fear.
Expect to suffer from.
Or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, in Dutch it sounds better. I'm not denying the fact that bad things may happen. I'm also not saying that no cyber Pearl Harbor will ever happen, because it could be happening now, right?
Mm-hmm.
The point is, I don't think it's a productive way of bringing across the urgency of what we are doing here. I think the frame of the story should be digital technologies have become the backbone of our everyday lives, of our economy, of our government, and we need to take good care of that, because otherwise we suffer as a society, we suffer as human beings, we suffer economically, right? But it's similar to talking about health. If you keep telling people that they're about to die, then at some point they're going to say, well, I'm still here, aren't I? And now I'm just going to have all the French fries and the fatty foods in the world because I don't care anymore, right? So the story should instead be, wouldn't you feel a lot better about your life if you had this basic stuff in order? And so the story in that sense should be about digital security. This is a requirement for doing the world that we want to do today.
In a sense,
and that's why it's important, not because there might be some impending doom.
So in a sense, sort of the complicated relationship, but based on love and a positive attitude. Let's turn to the audience. Do you have questions for Bibi? And I looked it up before this conference. A question is a short sentence with a question mark.
Also the mic.
I have one question. So there's a giant example of doomsday in the past, and that is the year 2000 clock reset, if you remember.
Yeah.
I mean, people were predicting everything would come to a halt. There were millions or hundreds of millions invested in going through software, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So I assume this is one of your basic study objects.
That's indeed one of the cases that we refer to. Yeah, and the question then is that we will never know, in hindsight, whether the doom was averted because we did so well in our preparation, or whether there actually was no problem to begin with. And so this is also the point of the research project that we're going to do. So it's finding out in the moment, right now, what people... so one of the things that we're going to look at is near misses, right? And in, for instance, the aviation industry and other safety areas, that's already a very common thing, that you register something that was about to go wrong, and then it didn't. And oftentimes it doesn't because some person intervenes at the last minute, steps in, presses a button, stops a process, and then the crisis is averted.
Bibi, I have another question up here.
Hang on. The digital realm.
Oh, okay.
We don't have a reference to that yet. So we don't know whether there are many near misses. We don't understand how that phenomenon would work, if it's even there. So that's part of what we're going to be investigating.
Sorry, I thought you were ready.
No, it's fine.
I was looking at this gentleman.
Yes.
Hi. So kind of related to the prevention aspect of this, how well do you think that the upcoming Cyber Resilience Act from the European Union is going to be able to move us in the direction of preventing more incidents and preparing us for dealing with incidents that are inevitably going to occur?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think I'm very happy with the Cyber Resilience Act. Maybe one of 3 people in Europe who's happy about it, but there you go. Because it puts responsibility in the right place, right? We have been dealing with technology producers who have, for the last 50, 60 years, have dumped crappy products in the market and then simply said, sorry, it's too complicated, we can't fix it. And now putting responsibility on those shoulders and saying, you need to fix it, rather than end users who have crappy technologies in their homes and suffer the consequences. I think is a very good development. So yes, I think a bunch of the problems that we are facing today will actually go away or be decreased significantly if we hold the right parties accountable, and the law is going to help with that.
Thanks.
Another question.
Just make up a question.
I can do a second one, and that is the first moon landing.
The first moon landing, yes?
Yes, well, I lived through that.
I didn't, but there you go.
The 1201 and 1202 alarms during the landing were the computer crashing, and for a completely different reason, they built in mechanisms to restart the computer within 30 milliseconds. That saved the moon landing, but there's also a lot to learn about resilience, robustness there also.
Yeah, no, definitely, and simplicity. I mean, if you look at the way they landed an entire thing on the moon with just, what was it, something kilobytes as the entire computer. I understand it's a different reality, but still complexity is I think our worst enemy. At the same time, also our friend, because complexity also means that it's harder to yank out the right cable, right? So in that sense, there you go.
I have another question for you, Bibi. You talked about the lack of data in cybersecurity, or at least the scattered form of data currently. We're here together with industry, government, and academia. You said this data, basically, as I understood it, this data is scattered over all these parties, police, cybersecurity companies. Is that something where those three parties could work together to unlock the data and to make the predictions better? I see you.
Yes and no. So
doubting.
It would help. In the early 20th century, when we started flying, the airline industry and science and government collectively realized that flying is risky, and that if you crash a plane, it kills lives, but it's also very costly because planes are expensive things. And so from the start, I think as early as 1911, what we did was we created a public database that registers all incidents and near misses with airplanes carrying more than 12 people on board. And you can look it up. It's a free and open database. It's online. Literally all incidents are in there, including reports on what happened, pictures, stories, causes, incident reporting, and so on and so forth. And the reason why we have that is because the idea was that it would provide the entire industry with the possibility to learn from past incidents collectively and then build planes better so that the same incidents wouldn't repeat.
The question is, why don't we have that for cybersecurity?
Because it's far too many small incidents, so it's global. Who's going to do the governance of that? Who's going to pay for it? How are you going to make everybody participate? And the list goes on.
There are not like 10 airlines you can put together in one room. Well, maybe you can make a start, right?
Big of an industry. You could make a start and then hope for people. And there are, of course, already databases with vulnerabilities, for instance, that are registered and that are actually tapped into by certain communities. But on the same scale, this is not something that we have. I would love to hear thoughts on how we could develop that, but I see a couple of hurdles.
Okay, now let's work on that.
Yeah.
Bibi van den Berg, one last question, yes.
I just wanted to say, this is what the Cyber Resilience Act is also partly trying to address, right? Yeah. It requires all companies selling products with digital elements to make notice of any incidents they have internally to the member states.
Yeah, but then it lands with the member states, and then what? So, yeah. I hear you, though, but yeah. Okay.
Bibi van den Berg, Professor of Cybersecurity Governance at Leiden University. Thank you very much. And Bibi, you can move to Olaf because we have a small present as a token of our appreciation. And Olaf will direct you towards it. You can choose something.
Thank you.
Okay, we move further on in the program. Let's see. Herbert Bos, can I invite you to the podium? Herbert Bos, co-founder of AMSEC, professor cybersecurity at the VU. In a few moments you will be sitting here interviewing two major representatives of government. We are talking about Alexander Scholtes, the Deputy Mayor of Amsterdam, and Pieter Heiliegers, the Cyber Mayor of the Metropolitan Region of Amsterdam. What would you like to ask these gentlemen?
So many things. So first I want to know what a cyber mayor is. I'll talk about that in a bit. But I also want to zoom in on we mentioned it in passing here, what we actually mean with digital autonomy at this level of government, right? So what does it mean for the metropolitan area, Amsterdam, for the region, and in general, what do we do in the this era of rising global tensions? Mm-hmm. I think that's at least those are some of the questions I want to ask. And I have some surprises.
They're just hidden questions.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
We never shared with them.
The nasty one.
Yeah, okay. So let's ask them to the podium. Pieter Heiliegers, the Cyber Mayor of Amsterdam, of the Metropolitan Region. Pieter, have a seat.
Yes, thanks.
And Alexander Scholtes, Deputy Mayor. Hi, Alexander. Have a seat. I am your waiter, so... oh, you didn't have I'll give you the microphone then. Okay. You have a very loud voice. We already had a meeting, and I was already impressed by your voice. So, but you can have a little help. I'm your waiter. I'll give you some drinks, and then Herbert, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. So I'd like to, since you're still waiting for the, you have the microphone. But I'll start with Pieter, because I'm intrigued first of all by the term cyber mayor. That sounds super impressive to me.
It is.
When I grew up, I grew up with my friends. We were reading these superhero comics, and I think the cyber mayor would have fitted well. The cyber mayor versus the Legion of Doom. In the future, I want to be known as the professor of Pwn or something like that. So I want to ask you in a minute what the cyber mayor of the metropolitan area region Amsterdam is doing. But first, I want to talk about a completely different topic, because we finally seem to be having a government, and I would like to hear from you what you think of the coalition agreement when it comes to cybersecurity.
I think that everybody in The Hague is aware of the necessity of this subject. There's no doubt about it. What I miss between brackets is that there is no Ministry of ICT and Cyber. Well, maybe it will come.
There's also not a lot of money in the coalition agreement dedicated to cybersecurity. At least that was one thing that. So when we looked at the pleas for funding there, the Cybersecurity Council asked for a significant amount of funding, so almost 700 million, I think, but there's nothing in there. Is that disappointing?
I don't think it's really disappointing, because everybody is aware of the fact that this is necessary. But it's not separated from all the budgets from the diverse departments. So the money is there, but it's not combined. So that's the challenge.
Should it be?
I think partly it should be, but if you have the money, you are responsible for it as well, and there is some more dedication, I guess.
Now, I want to go back to the title, The Cyber Mayor. Can you tell us a little bit about the Cyber Mayor? How many Cyber Mayors are there, and what do they do?
Yeah. Well, I think it's good for the audience to know that in the Netherlands we do have 342 real mayors. I'm the mayor of Uithoorn. It's one of the cities, suburbs around Amsterdam. And the Netherlands is divided for security support from the government position is in 25 regions. So in the Netherlands there are more or less 25 mayors who do have a dedication extra or aspects with focus on cyber and cybersecurity. And the role they do have is more or less being the driver and the promoter and the ambassador for this topic to let it land within the governance on all levels, and we will talk about it later.
Okay, and when it comes to these organizations in this metropolitan area and also the other areas where we have cyber mayors, what are the concerns that you think are the highest priority when it comes to cybersecurity?
It depends on which theme you focus, but let me pick out one of it. The audience here is dedicated to this subject. So I'm not worrying for you. But there are a lot of enterprises who will think, well, it won't happen to me, this subject. And due to the fact that crime is changing from physical crime to digital crime, and that's why the government should involve and help to get it more secured.
Mm-hmm. So quite recently, there was, speaking of scaremongering and potentially, predicting doom, there was a report by the Netherlands Court of Audit, in Dutch, the Algemene Rekenkamer, mentioning that we're going to have a quantum computer in 4 years, and we're all doomed. And yes, exactly. That's what they predicted, and also we are not prepared. The government is not prepared. The organizations are not prepared. Are you prepared? Do you think in this area?
It is 6-7. Probably, as Bibi said, it is more or less spaghetti. But we are all aware of it, that it could happen. And yeah, quantum computing or not, there was in the beginning, I don't know if you were here before, Alexander, but there was, where did you experience, when did you fall in love with the computer? For me, it was the ZX81. Ever heard of? Sinclair, yes. Basic programming, early 80s. We are just 40, 45 years ahead. This is exponential growing. So I agree a little bit with, if I translate it okay, what Bibi said. It is almost not to prepare for, but be aware.
But is it something that that is actually going to be extremely relevant to many organizations, or is it just a few that really should worry about, old historic data being captured now and decoded in the future?
I think it's for many and all organizations. And from my perspective, point of view, is I'm representing the government, the local government. If something fails in the digital world, the digital space, it will affect, we all know now, it will affect the normal street life. And that affects us as a local government. So that's why we have an extra focus, also as cyber mayors, on this subject.
Okay, I want to switch to Alexander. So you are deputy mayor and also alderman, which translates to the Dutch wethouder, with the responsibility of, I think, ICT is in your portfolio. And you're also a pianist and a kickboxer, I think. So, the audacious alderman, we have another superhero here. And I'd like to hear from you, what do you think of the coalition agreement?
Well, I think on the terms of digital autonomy, the texts in the agreement are quite clear, much more clear than they were in compared to the text of the current government. So that's a good thing. But let's see what happens. I mean, there's still a lot still a lot has to happen, and we really need a coordinated effort from the new government to really take concrete steps towards more digital autonomy. So we have to talk about money, of course, and we have to talk about the let's say Rijkscloud, overheidscloud, a sovereign cloud for the Dutch government, including the cities, that we really need if we want to be digitally autonomous.
Now, you're the alderman here in Amsterdam. So how often do you have dealings with the cyber mayor?
Well, not enough, I would say. So I think it's the first time we're together on a stage. First time of many, if it, I think, because I think we really need to work together also as different cities. I think maybe in Amsterdam we have the means and capacity to take some steps when it comes to cybersecurity or digital autonomy that smaller cities don't always have, and that's how it is. So we have some responsibility also to work together and to learn together. And it's also interesting, our buying power, if we combine all the money that we spend on IT and challenge the market to work with us, that's also a big thing. And that's also for us important that we work together with other cities.
Yep. So now you mentioned digital autonomy multiple times already, and I know that it's explicitly embedded also in your buying and cloud policy.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that means concretely?
Sure. Well, let me first start by saying, I mean, one of the problems that we now have is that we basically outsourced our digital infrastructure to one or two big tech, non-European big tech companies, or to software as a service providers, which probably also use those two big companies' clouds. And in times of geopolitical volatile times, that makes us really vulnerable. So it's not bad to rely on the market, but we need to stay in control of our critical processes and data, and we are not in control now. So we have to take steps. So we presented a plan how to get there in 2035. We want to make sure that all our critical processes, applications and all sensitive data are stored, hosted on a sovereign European cloud. That's a huge step, and we also want to start now. So we also said in our new sourcing and cloud strategy, if we're going to buy new software, digital autonomy is one of the criteria that we use to select the provider of that software, for example. And another step that we're going to take also this year, we're going to do a pilot with alternative workplace software, European software compared to, well, the American software we probably all use at the moment, to see, well, what happens if we start using that? Does it work with the other software? How is it? How do users like it? And if it works, we can do it more.
To what extent do you have complete freedom in doing this? Are you not bound by procurement rules, for instance, that sort of force you or nudge you in the direction of finding the cheapest vendor, and that happens to be big tech in many cases?
Well, that is a thing, of course. I mean, well, first of all, there's the money. I mean, to work towards more digital autonomy probably is going to cost us money, and I have to ask my city council to give me money to do that. I'm not sure if it will always cost more money because, well, let's face it, the money we spend on Microsoft is also quite a high amount, and it usually grows every year. So that's one limitation. And second limitation when it comes to procurement, of course, is if we really want to make sure that critical infrastructure is in European or Dutch hands, because that gives us a degree of control and makes us less vulnerable for geopolitical storms, then we should be sure that in those procurement processes we can say, okay, you can only do this as a company if you're European or Dutch. But we're not allowed to do that currently. So I asked the parliament and the government, change the rules so we can select European or Dutch companies for our critical software and infrastructure.
So your hands are bound at this point in making those decisions.
Yes. So I mean, we can say, well, you have to speak Dutch. Your data center has to be in Europe, but that's not a. I mean, that's nice, but the government, the U.S. government, can still enter it, look at the data there, and we can say you have to have some knowledge about digital autonomy or be able to help us with that. But that part to say who's the owner, who has to be Dutch or European, we cannot do that.
Mm-hmm. So I think many people, and that includes me, are deeply worried about. Our dependency on big tech for many things. There are several very big cases at the moment, right? So the purchase of Solvinity is just one of them. So I would also like to ask Pieter about this. So there's the procurement rules that seem to prevent some of the things that we would like to do. But isn't it also just the way we take decisions? Isn't it the case that the top in the government at the local level, at the national level, the top in industry, does not get sufficiently involved in this and basically signs off on whatever middle managers with the help of consultancy bureaus from the Big Four, the big tech companies have decided that we should purchase.
It's the easy way.
The easy way, and so there's, nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM, for buying IBM, which was the slogan in the 80s. But now we are sort of in a similar situation, it seems. Is that not really the case? Should we not take away some of this buying decision power from these?
Yeah, and the easy way of buying products off the shelf from the main suppliers. I think the awareness for the problems we are facing is nowadays also at the top level, especially when I speak for the city councils. The elections are nearby, March 18. As far as I can see and I hear, that a lot of city councillors, as well as the board in the cities, are aware of the fact that we have to invest more and more in cyber and the security, and not go only for the big five and the mainstream. But we can't do it alone. The 342 small ones and the great ones where Alexander is representing, we have to lift on the bigger ones. And I know also the CISO of Amsterdam is here in the audience. I have to rely on his experience with the small cities we have. So no, I'm not afraid of that. We will choose again for the products off the shelf from America.
You touched upon a very interesting point, right? And that is, I think, expertise is key here, right? So even knowing what is a reasonable alternative is something that requires a lot of expertise. And this is something that we've outsourced in decades to big tech companies and big tech big consultancy firms. Do we still have the expertise to have this meaningful conversation?
I think we do have, but not in the single small cities. Mm-hmm. That's why I rely on the city of Amsterdam and like to join the route Alexander is going.
So how would you make this concrete? How would this for especially now that the new elections are coming up, what would you like to see as measures to make this easier for the local municipalities?
Yeah. Well, it's more or less the same. Let me make a separation. For example, the fireworks. In Uithoorn, we have a fireworks, but it's related to Amsterdam, because before, for example, buying equipment for the fireworks is very expensive when I do it alone, rather than do it together with Amsterdam. And it starts with the communications with each other. As you mentioned early, we've never really met before to extra focus on this. But now I think that the time is right to do so. So I will focus as cyber mayor on that the connections will start after March 18 to combine this route.
Yeah, sounds really helpful. I think all the other local communities should try to do this as well. It's not so easy.
Well, there's also a bet, Herbert, if I may. We do have the academic world here. Mm-hmm. We do have the enterprises here and the government. The information and the assets and the gold mine, as I may call it, like the university, they do have on this specific subject. They should help us as well to strengthen us in security for cyber.
Why do we not see this happening yet? It's been somewhat limited in this at least in this region, I find. So do you collaborate a lot with universities or the knowledge institutes, Alexander?
Well, I think we do. I mean, on different subjects also, for example, AI. We have a good cooperation with the University of Amsterdam, the Hogeschool van Amsterdam, etc. But now we also started together with the ministry and knowledge institutions, a Digital Autonomy Competence Center to learn about, well, what do we need to know in procurement, in technology, whatever. And that knowledge we can share, of course, in the region. I think we already sent some text from let's work together and share knowledge. And the knowledge institutes are very important, but, well, we have some great knowledge institutions in Amsterdam, which of course serve the whole region, and we'd love also to work together with other regions. So I think it is there. When it comes to digital autonomy, well, we're starting now, I guess, because I mean, to be honest, it wasn't really a theme a year ago on a political level. There were like 1 or 2 members of the city council who thought that's important, and there was me, and there was maybe 1 member of parliament, but it wasn't really a big thing. And now it's a big thing, and people start to realize, well, we are really vulnerable now. Let's start doing things, and that's what we're doing now.
So now we've talked about 2 stakeholders here, right? So we have the local government in this particular case, or maybe also the national government, and the academics. There's also industry.
Yes.
So maybe for you, Pieter, what do you do to involve local industry? So not the Microsofts and the Googles necessarily, but the local companies, both in providing solutions, but also in making sure that they are more secure.
I think we should more and more stimulate with innovation projects, and there are innovation budgets available within the metropolitan area of Amsterdam. And we should promote that so companies or people who want to start up things can get startup money. Not everybody knows that, so we have to promote that more and more. That's, I think, one of the reasons, or one of the aspects that helped.
Yeah. And yes, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, maybe 2 things. So first of all, our mayor and my colleague, the deputy mayor responsible for economic affairs, they're both very active in the economic board in the metropolitan area to make sure that this region remains attractive for talent and for businesses. I think we have a lot of work to do there, but they're working on that, ecosystems, etc. And secondly, I mean, to be honest, we really, as a city, or I guess other cities or ministries, we didn't really have the conversation with European or Dutch tech companies, because we had one big company with one big solution. It was very easy for us. So that's what we worked with. And now we have to realize, let's not rely on one big company with one big a solution. Could be multiple companies, multiple clouds, multiple solutions, and we have to give European companies and Dutch companies a chance. So let's start a conversation. We have high demands when it comes to security and other issues. So they have to meet those, but let's start a conversation how they can help us to become more digital autonomous and help us do the service levels that we want to provide.
Now, if you had to identify one single systemic failure of how governments handle their digital autonomy, and that you could remove, that you could change, what would that be? What would be the main thing that you would like to change that would really help in preserving digital autonomy? Question for either of you or both of you.
Well, let me say 2 things. So first of all is what I started with, the idea that you can outsource your digital infrastructure, including knowledge about how to work with that, to non-European tech companies. Mm-hmm. So we have to make an effort to have the knowledge again, and to also including about the European market, about how to get there. And the second flaw is that, I mean, it is a huge effort to get there in 2035 to become a sovereign and have all those data stored on European clouds. It can be overwhelming. So the risk is that we do nothing because we think it's very overwhelming, and people say yes, but there's also the hardware, and there are always excuses not to do anything. But we have to do something, take small steps. So I would encourage also our current government and new government in other cities, and as we try to do now, start doing something, take small steps, like we do now with the alternative workplace software.
Okay. Pieter,
and stimulate out of the box thinking. Yeah. Don't go for off-the-shelf products from the standard suppliers.
But stimulating how? Do you have any concrete ideas about?
Now, it starts with saying that. So you don't have to go only to Microsoft or to find other solutions, stimulate that. And that is, I think, what I earlier said, together with the academic world, try to combine that and find how can we walk on this route.
So I guess as the cyber mayor of the Metropolitan Region Amsterdam, I think you play a role in this, right? So that is also partially your, I think, work to evangelize this, right? So is that actually what you do? Do you go to the other municipalities and tell them, like, look, guys, there's more than Google and Microsoft and Amazon?
That's it. But we have to translate it to practice as well. After March 18, I call it as a sort of metaphor, we should work together with the big cities. How can we walk on together?
So there is another aspect to digital autonomy, I guess, and that is that many of the people we educate in higher education go to the big tech companies and work there. We have a hard time keeping them for European companies. For instance, if I look at my own research group, basically in the last 10 years or so, I think 99% of all the PhD students went to work for, I don't know, Qualcomm, Apple, Google, Microsoft, all sorts of companies that are, not the ones that we would like to stimulate for digital autonomy. What can we do to change? What can Amsterdam and the Metropolitan Region of Amsterdam do to make it more attractive for these?
A question back. Well, what do you think their driver is?
Their driver is they want to do extremely interesting work, want to pay for accommodation in Amsterdam, and want to have some measure of security in general. I think that is what they want. Additionally, they don't want to have the uncertainty of, say, necessarily academic life, where, for instance, there's also really interesting work to be done, but the pay is much less, and you work on temporary contracts for a long time. So maybe that's not the most interesting employer. And when it comes to really high-tech industry, perhaps there is not that much.
Well, I guess that's the thing. Well, first of all, let me say, let's not just focus on PhDs and people in universities. We also think we also need more professionally trained professionals, or practically trained professionals, sorry. But secondly, well, if we're really going to do these steps towards more digital autonomy, which means working a lot of chances for European and Dutch tech companies, that also, and if we combine that buying power, so they know, oh, we can actually invest and grow because we know that Dutch cities and Dutch ministries will need us, will want to work with us. There will be huge chances now for, so that also will make it probably more interesting for your students and other people to work there, because there's a whole transformation going on. It's gonna take 10 years, 20 years. So I guess it will be more attractive in that way.
Excellent. So I see that we're running out of time, and I would like to give the audience at least some opportunity to ask questions. And I see lots of hands already, probably more hands than we can handle, but let's see. Yes.
So lucky to sit here, I guess, but thank you very much. I'm so grateful to be here. And the question goes to Alexander, because you mentioned that you are quite committed to change the workplace of the people who I'm also grateful to. I'm from another country, and when I come here, I see that the government and the municipalities work quite efficiently compared to where I'm from. But that depends on the hard work of those people. And my question actually is, are you aware that they are going to suffer on a personal level because they have to shift to a product that is not something that they're used to? Because this is going to be a personal challenge. Are you aware of this? And do you think that we will be able to tackle this? And are you going to do things to train these and help these lovely people whose jobs are going to evidently be made harder because of this shift?
Well, sure. I'm not sure if I would call it suffering, I guess, but that's quite a big word, I would say. But sure, that's why we start with in small steps, and we'll start with a pilot, and we'll see what happens, and we'll help them and train them, of course. But we have to start somewhere. That's what we do need. People from Amsterdam will suffer if Donald Trump says that Microsoft cannot provide any services to Amsterdam anymore. Then we cannot email anymore, we cannot provide permits anymore, we cannot communicate with our people anymore. So that is my concern. This is really about continuity. So of course we will do this very carefully, but I think actually a lot of my colleagues are looking forward to this.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. I have a more kind of meta question. When it comes to talking about investment into cybersecurity, everybody says invest into that. But you have a big difference between investing in yet another American company for example, CrowdStrike or all of the endpoint detection systems. Those are almost all American or UK or at least non-European. When we're talking on a policy level, and for example, in the back rooms, do you guys make a difference between investing in cybersecurity versus digital sovereigns? Or are these two mixed? And do you guys notice that there is a clear divide between these two when you're talking with your fellow colleagues?
Whom are you asking the question?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. I think it is a mixture of one of your parts of your question, and it is a mixture of because let me link to another question again. But it's a mixture of because I think the Netherlands the Netherlands is such a small country with 18 million inhabitants. When you focus on, for example, Cairo or Japan, it is the same the size of inhabitants. And what I want to say here is that we should not only the academic world combine and the new enterprises combine and the startup combines in the Netherlands, and not only focus on SEC Amsterdam of SEC Eindhoven of SEC Wageningen. And yes, then it's both not only cybersecurity but also other information and communication technology solutions.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we do one more question?
Yes. I had a question. So I think we're all kind of on the same page about wanting more digital autonomy. And the first real practical thing that stands in that way is actually shifting away from these services that we rely on currently. And so you can call this interoperability. And from my view, one of the main things that actually stands in the way of interoperability is copyright. So say that we wanted to migrate over to a European cloud and actually wanted to take the existing people that are on non-European clouds and get them over here. One of the big reasons that makes that almost impossible is because it's a felony to reverse engineer and to open up those boxes provided by the US tech companies. And that's a law that's enforced in the Netherlands. It falls, I guess, under Dutch copyright law. So my question is, I guess a little bit towards Alexander, is there any talk of loosening up these laws, making it possible for us Europeans to start opening up these boxes that have been kind of sealed closed by the Americans?
Well, obviously, you're much more of an expert on copyright laws than I am. But I would say it's our data that is on Microsoft data centers within the European Union. I would say we could migrate those data to another cloud if that's our choice. I don't see why we couldn't, but I'll check with my experts if there's any thing we should look at concerning your remarks. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've run out of time, so I would like to ask you to give a big hand to Pieter, the cyber mayor, Heiliegers, and Alexander, the audacious alderman, Scholtes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Heel interessant, hartstikke goed.
Dank je. Dank je.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.